What does the crowning of a king, the pardoning of war criminals, the birth of a drug lord, and a devastating tsunami all have in common? That's right, they all happened at Christmas, a time when prosperity, peace, and goodwill are supposed to reign supreme. Welcome to Intrigued Mind, where today we will take a look at some of the worst Christmas disasters in history. Christmas is traditionally a time when families and friends come together in peace to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, to share a feast, and to exchange gifts. It can also be fraught with parents arguing with children, aunts bestowing revoltingly wet kisses, and uncles having one too many eggnogs. But before you start lamenting your own less than pleasant Christmases past, consider our list of worst Christmas disasters in history, and remember that your Christmas could have been worse. Much, much worse. In 1066, a Norman bastard named William invaded England and after a battle at Hastings, won the English crown. Prior to this, England had been under the domain of a succession of Anglo-Saxon and Danish kings. William the Conqueror ushered in a reign that would change history. He was crowned on the 25th of December in the same year at Westminster Abbey, thus completing the Norman conquest of England and signaling the end of Anglo-Saxon rule. Whilst this may not sound overly disastrous to modern-day audiences, consider this from the perspective of the contemporary Anglo-Saxons. William slaughtered a large number of the Anglo-Saxon ruling class and confiscated their lands. Prior to this, land had been given in exchange for duties under the Anglo-Saxons, but this changed under William. He implemented the feudal system, which meant that he now owned the entire country and leased it out one parcel of land at a time. English peasants would suffer under feudalism in one way or another for the next 600 years until it was finally abolished by the 10 Years Abolition Act of 1660. Our next Christmas disaster takes place in the United States in the year 1868. Andrew Johnson, who has retrospectively come to be regarded as one of the worst presidents in U.S. history, granted unconditional pardons to all persons involved in the Civil War's Southern Rebellion. Whilst this may have been quite the Christmas gift for those receiving their presidential pardon on the 25th of December, it essentially meant that every man and his dog who had fought against the abolition of slavery got off scot-free. Whilst Johnson's predecessor, Abraham Lincoln, had also granted pardons, these had been limited and done according to certain strictures. Under Johnson, tens of thousands of pardons were granted, even to people who had clearly committed war crimes. If a participant did not meet the criteria for the general pardon, then they simply filled out a pro forma special consideration form for the president to sign. Johnson is remembered by history for his opposition to the rights of African Americans after the Civil War, and is rightly criticized and condemned for it. This pardon of war criminals is certainly a knock against his posterity. On Christmas Eve in 1913, a hall full of men, women, and children came together to share and celebrate the season, in no small part as an antidote to the strain of a 5-month-long labor strike. These were the local miners and their families who had gathered in the Italian Hall in Calumet, Michigan, a town in the heart of copper country. Suddenly, just as people started to relax and enjoy themselves, a voice shouted out, "Fire!" Panicked, everyone rushed from the hall simultaneously, and they got caught in the exits. Tragically, 73 people were crushed to death in the melee, 59 of whom were children, with one being just 2 years old. The real tragedy here is that there was no fire. It was believed that anti-unionists manufactured this disaster in order to break the miners' strike. It was the greatest loss of life associated with these copper mines, and ironically, it happened above ground. Today, the Red Cross lights 73 candles in the place where the Italian Hall once stood, in memory of those innocent lives that were taken on Christmas Eve in 1913. On the 25th of December, a baby boy was born to poor parents in a rural community. He grew up to be one of the most powerful men in the world. Sounds like a familiar Christmas parable, right? Well, not quite. This particular baby boy was born in Mexico, and his parents named him Joaquin Guzman. But he is better known as El Chapo, which is Mexican slang for Shorty. The United States Department of the Treasury considers El Chapo to be the most powerful drug trafficker in the world. The head honcho of the Sinaloa cartel has famously escaped from prison in Mexico not once, but twice. Today, he is incarcerated in a supermax facility in the USA, where he will, hopefully, never get out. Biographers dispute the birth date of this Mexican drug lord, some believing it to be the 4th of April rather than the 25th of December. Either way, the coming of El Chapo in 1954 heralded the torture, order to kill, or murder of thousands of people, according to one DEA special agent. And while some of these people may not have been innocent, one of the victims of drug dependency and their families, These are the real victims of drug trafficking crimes. And this is why the birth of Joaquin Guzman makes our list of worst Christmas disasters in history. In the early hours of the 25th of December, 1974, the city of Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory in Australia, was struck by a devastating cyclone. Cyclone Tracy had started to gather over a suburb called Fanny Bay at 3:30 a.m. Luckily, it struck the city as people slept inside their homes. If it had struck during the daytime, then the death toll would have been even higher. Even so, 71 people were killed, 145 people suffered serious injuries, 70% of Darwin's buildings were destroyed, and the bill for the damage was 80 million Australian dollars, which in 1974 was a colossal amount of money. The waters of the harbor swelled to 5.2 feet, and the waters at the beach reached 13 feet. Wind speeds were recorded at 135 miles per hour before the recording device was destroyed. Gales reached 25 miles per hour outward from the cyclone center. 36,000 people had to be evacuated from Darwin via airplane due to loss of homes, no electricity, no running water, and the risk of disease. It was a horrible Christmas day for Darwinians and Australians alike. The Christmas disaster that was Cyclone Tracy was captured in song for posterity, heartrendingly entitled, "Santa Never Made It into Darwin." Cyclones are not the only natural disasters that have befallen the Southern Hemisphere at Christmas time. On Boxing Day 2004, the day after Christmas, a massive tsunami struck the west coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia. This tsunami was caused by an undersea earthquake that measured 9.1 to 9.3 on the seismic magnitude scale. Waves that reached 98 feet high on the beach moved inland, decimating the communities that called the coast surrounding the Indian Ocean home. The Boxing Day tsunami claimed a staggering 227,898 lives across 14 countries. It was the largest earthquake of the 21st century, the third largest earthquake recorded in history, and lasted for a terrifying 8 to 10 minutes. It was so powerful that it even triggered another earthquake in Alaska. The international aid effort to help these communities recover totaled $14 billion. There are several other disasters that have occurred on or around Christmas Day. There's the Richmond Theater Fire of 1912, which killed 72 people and was the worst urban disaster in American history at the time. In New Zealand, on Christmas Eve in 1951, a train with 285 passengers plunged into a river after the water had swept the bridge away only moments before, killing 151 poor souls aboard. And there are the Black Christmas bushfires, which swept through the east of Australia, which began on Christmas Eve 2001 and raged until well into the new year, destroying everything in their path across a massive 753,314 hectares of land. Despite 121 homes being razed to the ground, astonishingly, not one person perished. The point of all of this is that bad stuff can happen on any day of the year, regardless of whether it is a special occasion or not. So this Christmas, make sure you hold your nearest and dearest close, and perhaps write a letter to Santa Claus asking for a safe Yuletide, because you simply do not know when disaster is just waiting to strike. What Christmas Day disasters would you have added to the list? Let us know in the comments. So there you have it, folks. Christmas doesn't just mean ugly sweaters and too much pie. It can also mean disasters of the natural and the human-made variety. These terrible events which happened on or around Christmas Day just go to show that Mother Nature, the universe, destiny, whatever you ascribe anything calamitous to, will do what they want when they want. The birth of the Son of God and the coming of a new Messiah be damned. For more videos on the most amazing forgotten parts of our history, be sure to subscribe to the Intrigued Mind channel, like the video, and leave your suggestions in the comments below.